Throughout my life, I've been privileged to either be physically or virtually exposed to a variety of great leaders and leadership techniques. Whether it be sports figures like Tom Brady, LeBron James, or Jim Harbaugh, political minds like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and FDR, or even a variety of different coaches, teachers, and personal mentors. Every one of these figures has provided me with vast ideas on interpersonal skill development, personal and professional growth, and leadership techniques. Yet, the knowledge and skills I have learned from each one of these figures over the years doesn't even come close to what my father, Nicholas King, has taught me about leadership, self improvement, and service. His dedication to his people, his commitment to giving back to his community, and his devotion to setting and maintaining a standard of excellence are unparalleled leadership qualities I have yet to glean from any of the companies or universities I have attended. Over the next 20 or so minutes, I will disclose how I believe my father's clear company motto, "Live Well," is the foundation upon which his messages of leadership have been built. I will accomplish this in three distinct parts. First, I will discuss a little bit about his backstory and his core leadership traits of being dedicated to his people, committed to giving back to his community, and devoted to setting and maintaining the preferred living standard of excellence. From there, I will delve more deeply into the backbone of his leadership, dedicating my time to further discussing my father's desire to continually learn from others, the standard he has set at preferred living, and the culture he has developed for his people. Finally, I will conclude with a leadership master plan I like to call the 3 A's for success. This schematic is both based on the leadership principles my dad has taught me and the ideals I have learned from this course. Let's begin. When my father was at the age of 18, just removed from high school, he attempted to enlist in the Air Force. He knew he wanted to get away from home, but also knew that the collegiate route wasn't going to be a viable option considering his relationship with academics, a combination of not taking it seriously, which he has admitted to, and a variety of learning disabilities, and his financial situation. So he set off to Texas, where he began basic training to become a full-time member of the United States Air Force. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately for him, he was denied based on a severe allergy to bees that he had been born with. My father then returned back home to Columbus, Ohio. He began school at a community college, Columbus State Community College. Without even finishing his associate degree, he dropped out of Columbus State. Having now been sent home from the Air Force and having dropped out of the limited higher education he had up to that point, my father's life was at a crossroads. While he may not have known it then, the stories of these moments in his life have been so integral to my understanding of what it means to be a great leader. He embraced Michigan legend coaches Bo Schembechler and John Beilein's message of sudden change with every part of his being. His ideal of embracing change with a growth mindset was essential to his development and to my knowledge of who a great leader is. Through many years of hardship, struggle, and adversity, 28 years ago he co-founded Preferred Living, an Ohio real estate company with hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, dozens of apartment complexes, and miscellaneous business endeavors, and a community of loyal, hardworking, and loving employees who want to grow both personally and professionally. His genuine love for his people and passion for his work is infectious and easily demonstrable. Whether it be him giving jobs and places to live to homeless people, paying for employee health procedures, or taking the time to get to know his people at company outings and before meetings like Bill Campbell did in Trillion Dollar Coach, he cares about everyone. Likewise, his dedication to giving back is inspiring, not only to his company and I, but to the future generation of business leaders and students throughout the Columbus area. Take, for example, when he and his preferred business partner, Mike Kenny, donated their own time, money, and man resources to completely redo every single classroom in their high school alma mater. This extraordinary act of generosity changed the high school learning environment and experience, not only for myself, but for thousands upon thousands of past, present, and future students who get to learn finance, economics, and real estate in the school's Kenny King Business Center. However, perhaps what I admire most about my father is his commitment to his standard, very similar to the standards discussed by Coach Beilein and Coach Bacon. The market may technically give him the opportunity to relax preferred standards of excellence, but they never do. They have a very strict and succinct identity for what they believe is the preferred way of doing things, and they never deviate from that. They are set in stone in who they are, what their mission is, and upholding that to the highest degree possible. Now, I will shift gears a bit to discuss what I think are the 3 biggest leadership keys to success that my dad has developed over the years. By leadership keys, I mean personal and organizational mantras he has adapted as a leader in order to help his company and his people be the best versions of themselves possible. These are not just traits my father has demonstrated in his leadership over the years, but ideological ways of management that have resulted in his company's ultimate achievement. I begin by debunking the CEO is Superman myth. One of the first lessons of business and in more general life that my dad ever taught me was that you don't have to be the smartest man in the room. He has always told me that he has never been the smartest person, but he instead surrounds himself with great people and chooses to outwork just about everyone that comes across his path. As John U. Bacon said in Let Them Lead, and Kevin Conroy said in his presentation to the class, being the smartest person in the room is actually not a good thing. You need diverse minds who can come up with new innovation, who can inspire different ways of thinking about solutions to problems, and who can correct you when you're wrong. However, you have to make sure you actually do get those good people on your team. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. A perfect example of this comes from third-year Loyola Chicago student and preferred living summer intern the last 2 years, Matthew Fu. Matthew has been a property management and leasing intern. I sat down and spoke with him for over an hour about his time at Preferred Living, including how he views the company's culture, his relationship with other employees and management, and the projects he has been involved with throughout the company. One thing he kept reiterating was the psychological safety he had, which was discussed throughout Trillion Dollar Coach, and the freedom he had to bring up new ideas, challenge his peers, and engage with his bosses.
Definitely, I was an intern. I was the lowest level you could possibly get in the company. Yet my higher ups would bounce ideas off of me, and I would give them my honest feedback. We, I actually did have a disagreement with one of my higher ups my first year with them, and um, we ended up talking it out, and we ended up going with my suggestion, which ended up turning out to be a good decision. But either way, we would have went with that call would have been good. But this way just made more sense at the time. So I think I, I really appreciate being in a culture where my voice did matter, where I was able to make and contribute to important decisions. Another big thing was um, your dad and the head of construction would come in and our higher ups, and we'd all talk about things we think we should add in the new properties that we're developing. So that's really cool. Like I was the lowest person, yet not only was
Yeah.
I making pricing calls, not only was I being able to contribute in big decisions, but like my voice also then directly affects and contributed to future developments and future buildings that are in the pipeline.
As Matthew emphasized, higher ups would continually bounce ideas off of him, and he felt the security to provide honest feedback to what they were saying, even if he disagreed. In my opinion, this is a perfect debunking of the CEO is Superman myth, and something I know my father will be very proud to hear. He wants all of his people to be part of the collective success of the company, which is evident in him bringing in top people and allowing them to actually do their jobs. Like Matthew, I too worked at Preferred this summer. What I consistently noticed, and what Matthew just hinted at, is that Preferred employees have little problem challenging my father on issues. The culture is one of collaboration, mutual respect, and interdependence on one another to achieve a common goal. This in turn fostered an environment where employees weren't afraid to ask questions and higher ups weren't afraid to say, I didn't think about it like that, or maybe I am wrong, or you actually make a good point there. In addition, his hirings of both Jared Smith and Kate Clay perfectly demonstrate the debunking of this myth. I worked extensively with both of these figures this summer, and they have been mentor-like figures to me in general over the years. They are so influential in everything my dad does. Jared is in nearly every meeting and makes a multitude of business decisions with my dad, while Kate is largely in control of all legal aspects of the company. My dad would never be able to control the aspects of the company that Kate and Jared both help with. I've seen firsthand how he has given his ultimate trust to them and how much both parties respect each other, making the company and my father himself better as a result. After debunking the CEO as Superman myth, I want to switch gears to discussing what I and many at Preferred Living call the preferred way of business. A quote from Preferred's website that my dad has referenced to me either directly or indirectly countless times reads, We made a commitment to a very high standard many years ago. It's what separates us from all the plain old apartment complexes in the area, and it's why our residents love the preferred life. One of the biggest points of emphasis at Preferred is never settling for lower than their standard. While this certainly is a goal of many companies, I believe it truly takes a special one to assert this as a goal and then actually implement it. As I have begun working for Preferred and through observing the company throughout my whole life, I've come to notice that the Preferred Way isn't just a mission statement that is said once and forgotten. It is completely central to who the company is. I remember many times visiting apartment complexes with my dad as a kid, and he would go around cleaning up left behind trash, rearrange objects that were out of place, and help sweep up dirty sidewalks or ongoing construction. Similar to Coach Bacon and Let Them Lead, my dad never was above doing the dirty work or the activities that were for other employees. He has and will always be fully committed to the standard of living well and what it takes to enforce that standard. As John U. Bacon also said in Let Them Lead, if you start relaxing your standards to meet the lowest common denominator, you'll sacrifice both your standards and your talent pool. But if you uphold your standards, your candidate pool will grow, and with people who can actually do the work. And may I add, so too will your organization's commitment to its identity and established culture. If you are committed to your company's standard through thick and thin, through the ups and downs, that standard will only be easier to implement in the good times as well. So many times I've heard my dad say something along the lines of, nobody else is doing this right now, but that's why we have to. We can put our foot down and really get ahead of the competition. This ideal is what separates the Preferred Way from the other real estate companies in the area who aren't as committed to doing the extra. Here's a brief clip of Matthew talking about the management staff at Preferred.
But then quality-wise, attention to detail-wise, they really instilled the importance of having everything perfect. Um, we we cleaned multiple times a day. We did all these things so everything was perfect. They instilled that in us just because they emphasize the importance that this is what sets us apart. We aren't like other companies in the area. We really pride ourselves on the attention to detail, the community aspect. And I think they instilled the realization of how important this was for the company and how it would further us as a company, further us as a community, and truly set us apart from the competition.
One important aspect of Matthew's verbiage here that I have noticed in my time at Preferred as well is the usage of the pronouns we and us. You can very much tell this is a team affair where everyone is valued, all in, and wants to be where they are working. Preferred Living Standard has been centered around everyone doing their job and committing to the core message that both I and Matthew have previously discussed. Above getting amazing people on his team, above setting an excellent and maintaining an excellent standard, what I respect most about my father's leadership is the culture he has developed at Preferred Living. Guest speaker Ron Alvesteffer cited that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I guarantee that if you ask anybody in his company how much they thought my dad cared about his line of work, his people, and Preferred Living as a whole, they would answer somewhere along the spectrum of a lot to a freaking lot. You will be hard pressed to find a leader in modern business who cares more about his people and his company than my dad. Don't just take my word for it though. Take Matthew's, who cited, it is genuinely easy for your dad to lead just because of how respected he is, how generous and kind he is to his employees. He cares about his employees, and his employees care about him and his family. The aforementioned Jared Smith and Kate Clay have texted or emailed me countless times when I'm away from school, and I always make an effort to see them when I am home. This is the kind of culture that exists at Preferred, not only between a select few employees and myself, but between the greater company as a whole.
I think the main example of this is Preferred's a pretty big company, and you have your management side, but there's also the construction side. Within the construction side, there are people who have not had there's people who haven't had higher education. There's people who might have stopped to high school. There's people who grew up in areas that were very rural, and uh, your dad and all the other management does an excellent job at being able to cater to me, who's very young compared to the rest of the company, to the older side of the people at the company, also the people who are not as educated, the way they cater to each of us is different, but it works perfectly that we all come together. We all have a mutual understanding of goals. We all are one big community. Leadership wise, your dad and his team makes it feel like a family.
That family aspect is so important to my dad. He loves the people who work hard for him just like he loves us. It's a different kind of love for sure, but it's one that makes all the difference for the success he is able to achieve and the amount of people he is able to continually retain while still pushing the envelope again and again and again. Like John Beeline, he tries to never make a mistake on character. He may not be perfect, but he makes every attempt in the world to hire good, hardworking people with high character and a devotion to their mantra of living well. This commitment and his more general devotion to supporting his people and creating an environment of clear and meaningful goals, psychological safety, and a purposeful mission is what makes Preferred and my father so successful at what they do. I want to conclude this presentation by synthesizing all of the information about leadership I've learned this semester and all of the information about leadership I've learned from my father into a clear, few, and concise leadership strategy I have termed the 3 A's: ambition, attention, and accountability. One thing I mentioned in my core values and leadership assessment was that a culture of perseverance and determinism was pretty important for me to have in my place of work. That's where the ambition comes in. Coach Bacon mentioned this in Let Them Lead. Coaches Beeline, Klein, and Connery all mentioned this in their presentations, and this appears to be a central aspect of my father's leadership ideology as well. Have ambitious expectations and ambitious people, and don't apologize for them. It's so important to make your team or organization unique to who you are and what you are trying to accomplish. If you don't attract certain people, so what? You aren't supposed to be for everyone. Have your standard and always enforce it. Strive to be the top of your industry, to be better than everyone at every turn, and embrace a culture that enforces that ideal. As a leader of a company, team, organization, etc., it would be my responsibility to instill this type of culture through my individual actions. I believe this course has only further emphasized to me how important a leader's individual actions are in creating the culture that they want. Everyone has to be accountable, regardless of their position within the company. Coach Bacon mentioned this in Let Them Lead. Ron Alvestuffer mentioned this throughout his presentation, and this can be seen in my father's actions as well. If you are not acting in the way that you want your culture to act, then how would you expect everyone else to act that way? Like Mr. Alvestuffer and my father, I want to have a culture that is built on a combination of care and performance. However, I believe now more than ever, I have to be an advocate and agent of this type of behavior. I cannot expect my employees or coworkers to behave in ways that I am not behaving. Both you and your employees have to be accountable to every aspect of your organization. Otherwise, you certainly won't be able to achieve your goals. Finally, I want to discuss that last A: attention. One thing that every single leader we have had talk to us this semester has mentioned is the importance of getting to know your people and paying attention to even the smallest of things. Both coaches Beeline and Narado in particular stated how getting to know their players on a more personal and committed level, as if knowing their players was actually an integral part of completing their jobs as athletic coaches, which it is, has been a massive part of their success. As I have mentioned countless times throughout this presentation, this ideology is so central to who my father is and how he chooses to operate, not only Preferred, but his daily life as well. There is not a moment that he is not fully present, paying his full attention to whoever he's with. This could be at work, when he's talking with people at meetings, or throughout the day at home when he's eating dinner with us or watching Michigan football, or the years and years he gave to coach us in a variety of different sports when we were kids. He always has given and always will give his full attention to whoever he is with. And that is something I seek to emulate, not only as a leader of business, but as a family man someday as well. I want to thank everyone who helped me with the creation of this video. Yes, it is a school project, but ultimately it is a dedication to my dad and how much his leadership has meant to me over the years. I want to thank him for providing such an incredible guide to successful leadership that I can follow. He has perfectly modeled who I want to become in so many ways, and I am forever grateful for that. I also want to thank Matthew Fu, who provided me with so much additional insight about preferred living and my father's leadership that I am beyond grateful for. I'm going to conclude with a few short videos from friends and family about what aspect of my dad's leadership has most spoken to them. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have enjoyed.
Hi, my name's Sophia Roncone.
Hi, I'm Cameron King.
Hi, I'm Carson King.
I'm Nick's wife, Jennifer, and I've thought about it all day, what makes him such a good, successful leader.
And I think it really comes down to his humility and generosity.
This is creativity.
This is decisiveness.
It's because he never gives up.
From the interactions that I've had with him in a professional setting, I've noticed that he's done a really great job creating a work culture that's centered around both hard work and kindness and care for others.
No matter what the problem is, he always has a solution and is always able and willing to help and adapt in any way he possibly can.
He will dig in and he will find another way of doing things. He'll brainstorm, he'll work with other people, but he will not give up.
I think by doing this, he's created a sense of drive and passion in his employees that has allowed them to be really successful.
He makes decisions quick, he acts fast, and he's extremely efficient at what he does.
And I think over the years, it's served him well, it's served his company well, and certainly the people that work with him and for him appreciate that, and they also learn to not give up, which has just made them stronger as a whole.
And from my experience, I know that really good leaders have an infectious energy about them that encourages people to do their best. And by being kind and generous to everybody in the office, he's really created a work culture that has allowed the whole company and the employees to be really successful. And that is just one of the many reasons why I think he's a great leader.
Thanks for being such a great leader, Dad. I'm so glad I was able to make this video honoring you, how much you've taught me, how much you've helped others, and what a great leader you've been. I'm so excited to see you continue to evolve as a leader at Preferred and in your other business endeavors, and to see how our relationship will continue to grow as I finish college and get out beyond. Thank you so much.